I got a meeting from Matt.
I'd like to call the meeting of the Bay County Board of Commissioners on Tuesday, January 9th, 2018 at 4 p.m. to order. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Durancheck.
Here.
Krieger.
Yes.
Big Ick.
Here.
Coonan.
Here.
Ryder.
Here.
Lutz.
Here.
Herrick.
Here.
All members present.
Please stand for the invocation and the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we come before you this afternoon, thanking you for the guidance and understanding that you have given this Board of Commissioners. Lord, we ask again today for your help and direction to carry on and do the work that has been placed before them. May your divine providence help them to benefit every citizen of this community. In your holy name we ask this. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business today will be the minutes from 12/12/17, 12/19/17, and 1/3/18. What's your pleasure?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Support.
I would make one correction on the minutes of 12/19 on page 4. It refers to a person we all know, Gerald Redmond, instead of Bob Redmond, but we'll take care of that, and that's my only thing I saw in there. Other than that, we're good. So with that correction, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Citizen input. If there's anyone from the audience that would like to come and speak before the commission, now would be the time to do it. We're all anxiously awaiting. Seeing no one, we move on to petitions and communications. From the Bay County Treasurer, the Treasurer's public official bond status. Need a motion to receive?
So.
Support.
A discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And from the Personnel Director, a listing of approved departments and department heads under Public Act 139. No motion to receive?
So moved. Support.
A discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
No. Okay.
Next, we have reports, resolutions of committees, and from the Ways and Means Committee, we have Commissioner Lutz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today I bring before the board Resolution 2018-1, which is a memorandum of understanding with MHT Housing Incorporated, Center Ridge Gardens. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Ryder.
Well, my concern with this resolution is we only have MHT as a developer, and it's been a good education, that I've got about tax credits. But again, we've had one proposal, and doing my research, I found that there are quite a few developers in this that have done work in the state of Michigan. And I don't know why we are not taking other proposals from at least two other developers for this project. Maybe we come up with something better. Until we see a couple different proposals, how do we know that we're getting the best bang for our buck? I certainly agree that it's a worthwhile pursuit to get these tax credits. I know that there are issues coming down the line that we're going to have to repairs that are going to be made there at Center Ridge Arms. And I don't know where that money is going to come from. My understanding is we're dealing with a shortfall here, and where we're going to come with funds once something happens over there. We just completed a project, a parking lot project, and I know where. I guess my question is, where did that money come from that we completed that project with? And I should know that. Excuse me for asking, but I think I'd like to know where the money came from, and I'd like to know what other projects, if we were to sign this MOU with MHT, my understanding is those funds wouldn't come around until 2019, if I'm correct. So
If we don't approve it today, that's true.
if we don't approve it today. So I guess, probably you could address those issues, I'd appreciate it.
Well, first I'll defer to Amber, who wanted to speak to one point, I guess.
The money that was utilized for the parking lot project came out of the capital improvement fund at Center Ridge Arms. There had been a number of years when we had not utilized the entire amount of the capital improvement fund, even though we had an opportunity to do so. Because of that, there was enough funding left, including a small amount of the funding that HUD was going to provide for the 2018 budget in order to cover that building capital improvement out of the capital improvement fund from HUD. It's my understanding, after speaking with Zach Brunette, who is the housing director, HUD has indicated to him that they are going to be looking at decreasing the amount of the capital improvement fund from this point forward for a number of reasons. Obviously, everyone is looking at doing more with less, but HUD hadn't been excused from that as well.
And what about other projects that
Yeah.
that we're looking at before 2019? Now, if there's a 6-month difference between acting today and acting after we would have a...
But then another 6 to 8 months before the money would arrive, and then the construction would take
So we're
several
talking
months.
about a year.
Year and a half, probably.
And what are those projects that we're looking at, quite possibly, that we're going to have to deal with?
Oh, you mean, well, new roof, new fire alarm system, new intercom.
And safety
Plus-
doors as well. Okay.
Yeah, the front entrance. Zach and I have totaled up around $500,000 of expenditures approximately to keep it safe for the residents.
If I could, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The other question I have is, with the needs assessment, I know that they're estimating about 5.7 million. My understanding is that 6 million is the most you can do with the tax credits. After that, you have to go out, look for grants or whatever to come up with any more money that's needed out there.
No, that's not true. Maplewood Manor is a $12 million project, all tax credits.
Really?
That's, I think, where they're getting, they got a big payment, I think $2 million from MHT, or maybe it was well in advance, well over $2 million, closer to $4 million. That's probably where some of the money on the county market is being proposed, probably from the Bay City Housing Commission. We should ask Bill if that's the source of the funding on these new projects.
Okay.
And I believe those would be HUD affordable. They'd be brand new. So this would be a partnership, as you know, with the county still maintaining control and managing it, and being 51% owner.
Thank you.
Commissioner Coonan.
You know, maybe, and maybe this is my fault as well, I should probably have been a little more proactive and being more aware of their budget. They have an operational budget and a capital budget annually. I'd like to see what that was for the last 10 years. And according to some of the information that I've read, that the operational budget has a surplus of $60,000 annually that we'll both split. Now, that's probably in the ballpark somewhere. So if we are right now have an operational budget of $60,000, that we are in the surplus, and we get a capital expenditure as well, over a period of time, are we not able to do some of the things that we are going up for tax credits for?
The capital improvement fund does not roll over. If you use it or you lose it
But
on
why would-
a yearly basis. There were years that all of the capital improvement fund was not utilized. I believe that the last capital improvement fund was $80,000 that the Center Ridge Arms had. So it does not roll over. There were projects that weren't completed. For instance, you can't do the roof for $80,000. So even though you may have that money in any given year, because it doesn't roll over, it's not something that you can utilize for a roof replacement. A roof repair would certainly be something that you could use that for.
We haven't seen that, $80,000, whether you can do a roof or not. You might say that, but we haven't seen that. Secondly, if we are accumulating $60,000 a year in rentals that we are above and beyond the cost that we have. Where is that money going? Can that money be tied into capital to do some of these projects?
I don't know the answer to that question.
And that's why this came to us, and I approved it last week because it sounded good. Maybe it sounded too good to be true, and it probably may be the way to go. But if we haven't even seen their budget, how can we make a decision on something that we don't have all that information on? That's some of the, one of the issues that I have. I'd like to be a little more knowledgeable on that budget, what they bring, what their operational budget is, what their surplus is, what the capital is, what needs to be done. No, last fall, that was the first time I heard there was a problem out there with the parking lot, and $80,000-$90,000, boom, it's taken care of through capital. If we were to take that capital over time and whatever surplus we had, are we able to do some of these projects that I haven't heard that we need to do? Nobody said, I haven't heard anything. Now I hear something about an intercom or something about the fire suppression. I just recently heard that. Nobody has said that in the past, that we've got all these looming, costly projects that we have to do. Just the last 3-4 weeks.
In fact, I think 10 years ago, the county could have been charging HUD $650 a month per unit, but instead, it's only charging $450. Apparently, they didn't keep on top of the changes. The residents pay between $20 and $70 on average per month for rent utilities. But I would point out...
Jim, are we going to be charging $650? No?
That, I believe, under this, yes. So that would significantly increase the county share, MHT's share. And then MHT was explained when they appeared before the commission, for the next 15 years, the length of the contract, MHT will be paying $50,000 toward the management cost for Center Ridge Arms.
Can somebody explain to me what the rent or the developer fee, where does that money come from, the developer's fee? Because that was a pot that we were going to get, kind of enticing, $400,000.
50%.
Yeah. Well, where does that come from?
The developer fee comes out of the tax credit monies that are paid by the third-party investor.
And do we know, that was just an estimate, right?
Right, all of the numbers that you're going to have, no matter who would do this project, would always be an estimate until you actually get a determination of what the appraisal value is from HUD and until you get the actual needs assessment valuation from HUD. At that point, they're going to tell you what they're authorizing the amount of the improvements to be, because you don't want to over-improve the property. So they'll give a certain amount of money that would be allowed for, whatever needs are going to take place over the next 20 years, because that's what they do. So they would come through the building and they would say, yes, your fire suppression system is going to need to be replaced within 20 years in order to keep it up to whatever standards they use. So they will put an estimate in the improvement fund of how much it would cost to improve the fire or replace the fire system. They would also say a roof is going to needs to be replaced within the next 20 years. And they would include that in the amount that was in the needs assessment as well. So that amount would be the overall repairs and replacements that would take place over the next 20 years.
Sure.
That's the amount that they're looking at.
Okay, and then what's to say with the operating income that we have plus the capital that we couldn't do the same projects?
The capital amount that we're going to get has not been enough to do the repairs in the past, as far as I understand.
Well, we haven't, as far as you understand, you haven't seen the budget either.
Right, but the amount.
Okay, but I haven't seen the budget, and if I'm going to make a decision, I want to see all the information. Now, let's say, for example, at some point we do go to, whether it's this company or another company, not the franchise fee, but it is it's the fee we were just talking about. Excuse me, thanks, Mike. The developer's fee. And the developer's fee, and then half the cost of whatever the building is worth. What can we use that for?
The developer fee is unrestricted funds. You can use it for whatever the county chooses to use it for, it can go into the general fund. The amount of money that the county receives the full amount of the purchase price for the building, and that funding would be restricted to whatever the county had designated to HUD that it wanted to use the money for at the time that it put in the application.
If HUD approves it.
If HUD approves it. And if HUD doesn't approve it, they'll say, we approve these 3 uses, but we don't approve the 4th use, so the county would have to.
It could be used for low to
resubmit.
moderate income housing.
It can be used for, in the county's instance, anything for the public good, but you have to identify those areas that you
Low,
want to
does it
spend.
have to be low to moderate income?
No, it does not.
The animal control, sanitary code, whatever. Any public interest project.
There's usually a 3-tiered interest system. You can reinvest in existing housing that you have. Since
Yeah.
we don't have existing housing, that's not an option.
You know, Center Ridge Arms has never really been under the jurisdiction of the board. It's always been the county executive running it, and I guess the information was there had I chosen to see exactly what's within that budget. And I didn't do that. I'd surely like to see it. I'd like to see, especially if we go from $450 a month to $650 a month, if that operating income goes from $60,000 to whatever, and that operating income, if that could be combined with a capital budget for that particular year, whether we can knock off some of these projects that we need to do. And, you know, somebody mentioned the roof. You could mention a roof on this building, the next 20 years we're going to need it, but do we actually need it now? What do we need to replace at that building? Nobody told us what we need to replace at that building today, or within the next year or 2. So that's why some of the concerns that I have, and I can agree with, or I do agree with Commissioner Ryder that maybe this concept is a good concept. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that maybe I should have done my due diligence and had a better understanding of what the budget was and what the money is on an annual basis to see if there's any projects that we could have accomplished or should have done or need to do. Nobody said we need to do anything, really. I haven't heard anybody. I knew we needed to do a parking lot, and we got that fixed through capital. But I don't think HUD builds these facilities and just doesn't give you any money to maintain them. That doesn't make sense either.
It's a minimal amount. What is the maintenance? The capital fund is 80, but President Trump has proposed an $8 billion cut in the HUD budget. We don't know what Congress will do with that, but the budget will be probably adopted by a Republican House and Senate in Washington. So we're probably looking at significant cuts.
I'm not saying tax credits are not a way to go, because it's almost, you know, it's like the federal government funding something in another way. And maybe that is the way to go, but I still don't think I have enough information. I'd like to see the budget, and I'd like to see a 10-year, a budget going back 10 years.
Well, whatever happens, we'll get you that.
Commissioner Krieger.
So if we're going from, let's say, 450 to 650 in rent, are we going to be displacing any of these people that would be under a burden?
No.
No.
Okay, so they can handle that. And if for some reason we were to change the direction of where we're going to go, is there a penalty that the county would face with MHT?
Do you mean if it's not agreed upon today?
Yes.
There's the possibility that MHT could move on to a different project, and if they do move on to a different project, then we will not have another company. We won't have a company to partner with in order to proceed.
Would that stop us from going forward, looking into other individuals or companies that are already doing business, like Tom had mentioned in Michigan?
The county can always look for other companies to partner with. We were approached by MHT.
Right.
So the process in trying to find another company to do this, I think would be very complicated, involved, and very time-consuming. So I don't think that you would be looking at getting anything out to ask for this particular type of proposal from other companies, probably within less than 12 months. And
So
after that,
they came to us, we didn't go to them.
they came to us, that's correct. It's my understanding that they also came to Maplewood Manor. And the positive so to speak, and in response to some of Commissioner Kuhn's statements, is that you could look at the possibility of whether or not we can do some of these repairs ourselves. The positive to the county in going through with this agreement is that not only are you going to have more improvements done to the building than you would be able to make from your capital improvement fund. They're talking about a very, very substantial upgrade in this building of close to $8 million overall, as opposed to the patchwork that would be done by the county if we retained ownership of the building. So in addition to this very major upgrade, as opposed to just trying to make repairs as necessary going along, we would also be looking at a very major influx of cash to the county at this point in time that we otherwise would not have if we retained 100% control of the building and didn't go through this development. So it's not just necessarily a question of, do we have enough money to continue to make repairs down the line as they're needed? This is a question of whether or not we have an opportunity here to make substantial improvements to the building itself and still retain an ownership in the building with the option at the end of the 15-year period of either putting another improvement process in place or just simply selling our interest in the building so we're no longer in the low-income housing business as the county exists.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Lutz.
The staff, if we may. Can we currently raise our rental rates to $650 from $450?
Amber, do you remember what the process was on that? All I know is that Bay County missed out on an opportunity to get an increase in rent because, for whatever reason, they weren't aware of the HUD changes.
Yes, and to be frank, I'm not familiar enough with the different HUD regulations to tell you what process we would have to go through in order to raise the rental amounts. I don't know if it's tied to the RAD conversion or not. I don't know enough about the HUD regulations to be able to tell you if we would be able to do that on our own or not.
So right now, we don't know that we could, so we're kind of stuck at our $450 right now.
Right, it's my understanding there was a time period that we could have put in an application to raise it when the prior, a number of years ago, and it wasn't done. I don't know that process. I'm not familiar enough with HUD regulations to be able to give you an educated answer today.
So the 60,000 that, Commissioner Kuhn was talking about and referring to, that's under the new system. If we go with MHT.
Correct.
The $60,000 over, income.
Correct.
That's split
What's currently our income now?
60.
16.
It's 60 now, and we split that.
Okay.
And under this plan, Commissioner Lutz, again, MHT would pay $50,000 each year for 15 years to support the management out of the Center Ridge Arms.
And right now, that's a cost that's carried 100% by the county.
Right, and then out of that 60,000 that we make, okay, what's allocated out of that 60,000?
He doesn't get it.
Do we know?
Can you clarify, are you asking if it's kept in a separate fund simply for Center Ridge Arms, if it's placed in the general fund? I guess I'm asking for clarification.
Well, I guess if we make $60,000, is that net, I guess, or gross? If net, is it carried forward every year so that next year we get 120,000? Or is parts of it used up?
I think he's asking fund balance. What kind of fund balance do we have?
Fund balance would be low. Jan, would you know?
They currently have $1.6 million in their fund balance, and you're correct, any revenue that we create would go against their normal operating expenses. Anything in excess would drop to their fund balance and be reserved only for their purposes. So for operations, for whatever they,
Okay.
again, following what the HUD regulations are, what they can use that, assuming they can use it for any operations, because it would be the net effect.
Right, so currently we have about $1.6 million sitting in the bank to do things with over there. Correct? We can allocate it to anything? Or staff can allocate it to anything? I guess we don't run that building over there. He does.
It's as of 2016, it's audited.
It's my understanding that the amount that's in the audited fund balance, the amount that can be spent out of that is subject to HUD regulation and has to be approved by HUD. I am not familiar with what the HUD regulations are in order to be able to tell you
So
how it
kind of
can and cannot be
restricted
spent.
fund.
Right, it cannot be placed into the general fund, it is
Right, it
money
has
to
to
be
be used for
used
that
for.
facility. So for the roof, for example, for the fire.
Although they're pretty much limited, Commissioner Lutz, to about 80,000 a year they have in the past. Some years they haven't utilized it. That's why it's kind of declined and
Well, right, but that's additional money over and above the 60,000, right? We get an $80,000 allotment here, plus we got 60,000, that's what Commissioner Coonan was talking about. So in any given 1 year, we got $140,000 that could be used for maintenance. If the true $60,000 is unencumbered.
And I don't know whether or not the 60,000 is unencumbered, and I can tell you that $80,000 was a past amount that we received, but that we have been informed that we are going to receive a reduced amount.
So, I guess it'd be nice to kind of get some ideas as to what you perceive as your capital improvements over the next few years at that facility, with some general dollars. I know, we haven't gone out and said, okay, yeah, this roof is in such bad repair, it's actually going to cost.
it's the original roof from 1980.
$90,000. So I think what Commissioner Coonan was talking about is something that, it'd be nice to see that and provide that information to the board.
Also, Commissioner Lutz.
At this point, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Coonan?
That fund balance of $1,600,000, I would imagine that could be used for some repairs as well.
I have absolutely no idea what the reserve
Okay,
is.
but none of us have a lot of answers. That's why I'm asking these questions. But secondly, if we agree to this MOU, who gets the $1,600,000 in fund balance? Is that split as well?
The agreement that we have with MHT does not address the audited fund balance.
It should, though.
I
It
don't,
should, that's our money.
that's Senator Jarman's money,
Absolutely.
yes. It's not the county's money, it's
I
Senator
think,
Jarman's.
and don't get me wrong, I don't think it may not be a bad idea. But now, just in asking questions, we got $1,600,000 in fund balance. If somebody said we got to do it because we got this fire suppression system that if, I just heard today, if it, HUD said it was no good, and if we don't agree to this, then we got to pay $1,000,000. Well, we got $1,600,000 there to do it. It's still too early, in my opinion, to come to an agreement on this because there's other folks out there, number one. Secondly, I'd still like to do a cost analysis over 10 years of what we're bringing in and what that facility needs and see if we can do it ourselves. If we want to get out of the business, then we should have said, let's get out of the business, but that's not what we were said. That's not what was said to us. To me, there's too many unanswered questions for me to agree to this MOU. It might be a good thing, it might happen, in my view, down the road, but I can't support it now.
Yeah, we have John Morse here, and John is very familiar with Center Ridge Arms and especially the roof issue. So John, if you'd want to speak to that, but I can't fathom why the commission would turn away from $8 million of improvements when it's already been explained to all of you that $51 is the amount the county has invested in this project.
I'm not saying it's not a good thing, John. I'm just saying we don't have to necessarily do it today. We don't necessarily have to do it today. We got money in the bank in fund balance to address any emergencies that we may have coming up that they said HUD won't take care of. And I still have a hard time believing HUD is going to build a building that's not going to provide the county or whoever it may be with the resources to recapitalize that building. I have a hard time fathoming that.
John, would you want to speak to what you know?
We do need an intercom system. The one is failing out there.
How much?
I do know that. I'm not sure the dollar amount on that. I heard 15,000. The roof is in need of repairs. I think we got about 3 or 4 years from the guy that we had look at it. The roof is actually 3 different sections, so it is possibly, you could do one section this year, do another section at a later date or whatever, because they are 3 separate individual roofs. They're not all combined. The elevators were replaced, and the parking lot, and we replaced the boilers 3 years ago.
Kristen?
As a roof comparison, we recently did the health department for facility 911 annex, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but over the course of 2 years, we spent about $400,000 on that. So as a comparison tool for updating a roof for a major building, again, I don't know exactly what Senator Redern's roof would cost, but if you wanted to use that as a tool.
It's a good idea, but we've got $1.6 million in fund balance too.
We did the court facility in 2 sections. We did the judicial, and then we did the main complex, the courts and the health department, 911.
Commissioner Ryder?
Well, I guess, listening to the debate, I'm going to vote yes, but I don't like the process. I got to tell you. We can't even go out to some other developers and ask for a proposal. Now we're stuck in a timeline and we roll the dice. That is terrible. It is terrible that we sit here and take action on something where we don't even know if we're getting the best deal we should be getting. So I hope we can improve on that. I don't feel good about it, but by the same token, I don't want to roll the dice. I think it's better that we have money to pay for, these, I don't even want to call them improvements. It's more than improvements.
Upgrades.
It's necessary maintenance that, we have not either paid attention to or not. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I'm just saying the process needs to improve. This isn't the way we should be conducting our business. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Lutz?
Okay, if this doesn't get approved today, playing the devil's advocate here, and we go through, we have April and October, so basically to meet the April deadline of filing, they would need to know soon, this week or next week.
Yeah, there'll be about a 5-month time frame for HUD to make a decision. And then after they make a decision, it'll be about 6 months before money would be approved. Then you'd probably have to have the work begin as far as upgrading the units. As been mentioned, $35,000 per unit. Now, that wouldn't go into every unit, but that'd be including other infrastructure upgrades like we just discussed, the roof, the fire alarm system. So it would be setting it off probably to about 2020.
So in the meantime, if any of this stuff fails, right, then we'd have to use those funds that are in fund balance to fix it.
I do not know whether or not the fund balance would be allowed, if they were allowed to use that for any specific purpose. I cannot answer what we could use that fund balance. That fund balance.
It's got to be for the building.
Would we have an answer by next Tuesday?
I can try to have an answer by next Tuesday's meeting.
And some budgetary figures to all the commissioners? And maybe some estimated costs, potential things that need to be fixed over there. I know the roof area is not quite as large as the court system, so probably looking at maybe half or a third of what the courts were, especially if they're in 3 sections. So, because as a membrane is bigger than the cost. being in the business, so as the roof area is smaller, cost are the same. So, would that be possible?
I was trying to reach Zach. I know Zach could answer some of these questions. I expected him to be here.
Well, because I sense a little trepidation of some of the board members here, you know, and they'd like to try to get, you know, some answers. You know, I raised several questions during this process, but, you know, now more are coming up, you know, beyond what I raised. So, I mean,
And we did have, you know, they did come up 5 times, and we did invite Mr. Redmond, who wasn't able to make any of the meetings, and I think you had a health issue in your family, so you couldn't make any of the meetings. And we did have Commissioner Durancheck, Commissioner Herrick, but a lot of this stuff has been gone over, but I don't have a committed memory.
right.
I mean,
And, you know,
if they would have been, if they were here tonight, you would have your answers.
right, and I've worked with Amber email-wise with them and things like that. So, you know, I guess I wouldn't have a problem if we moved this to next Tuesday's meeting or a board meeting after next Tuesday's meeting to actually finalize this, if the board wants more clarification on a few issues, if that would make this board more comfortable.
Commissioner Coonan, are you upset with Commissioner Lutz? Okay.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions to be answered, so I won't be supporting it if we refer it, but, you know, if we're gonna refer it, why don't we refer it and forget about the April and see if we can bring in other folks that do this type of work and see what kind of opportunity we get when we get competitive bidding on that. I don't, you know, the building's not going to fall down in the next year, so maybe we should look at the scope of other businesses who are out there that could possibly compete against this particular place. We probably need to do something. Maybe, you know, you got $1.6 million in fund balance. You can't tell me that we can't use that on capital. You know, if you guys don't know that, and what's it sitting in there for? And if we agree to this, where does that $1.6 million go? Do we give half of it to MHT? Too many questions unanswered, but.
No, that's the county's. They would not be entitled to any of that money.
Well, I still would like, personally, if we're gonna refer it, why don't we refer it and kind of bypass April and bring in other folks to look at the October and see if we get a better deal. If we can, then if that's the way we want to go, then we vote for it.
Commissioner Begay.
I would point out that we have Kevin Kilby potentially retained, and the resolve portion says that upon review and only after positive recommendation of outside counsel. So we have an expert. He's more expert than we are. We're not experts. We've got a lawyer retained, and there's an out that if he says it's not a good deal, we're out of the MOU. So we have our out. So I respect this gentleman. Sounds like he's an expert in the field, so
I don't
I
think,
think we should move forward.
Go ahead.
He said legally, we wouldn't be legally harmed, but he didn't know about the financial. And you could probably, I don't know the answers to all these questions, but we could probably find out very easily by talking to whoever did it for the Bay City Housing Commission. They're only down the street. Probably get all your answers.
Commissioner Coonan, do you want to say something else?
well, looking at that resolution, it almost looks as though we agree to this. We've already agreed to the MOU, and this guy's going to just tell us whether we got, we haven't hired him yet, have we?
Kevin Kilby? Yes, he reviewed the MOU.
What did he say?
He had concerns with 2 paragraphs contained in the MOU. I addressed both of those concerns with counsel for MHT, and he agreed to remove them so they weren't conflicting. He also had questions as it related to liability, but because MHT is guaranteeing the project and because we would be selling the property, he was concerned about whether or not governmental immunity would still apply, because there would be a separate insurance provision and we would not be guaranteeing the project. That issue was also taken care of. And he had one other question relating to, I believe, retention, site retention on the project, would be managing the project, and we clarified that language as well. He did indicate that MHT was a company that was very well known for tax credits such as this. So his main issue was the conflicting language in the MOU and any potential liability, so we did address those issues.
Commissioner Lutz.
So if we don't go with MHT and we go out and solicit other firms in addition to MHT, that could be anywhere 6 months to a year out. Just throw numbers out. Then there would have to be the application process, and then there would be another 6 months to get it approved, and then probably another 6 months to a year to get any funds going. So now we're 2.5 years out. Okay. So before any process, whether it be MHT here or any future person beyond MHT would get involved. So then the county would still be on the hook or responsible for the maintenance of that facility in totality for the next 2.5 years. So if the roofs need to be done in the next 2 years, we'd have to put new roofs on. You know, if the fire alarm system fails in that amount of time, we'd have to put a new fire alarm system. If
189.
the $15,000 that we need to put in for the intercom system, and I'm not sure exactly what the intercom system does in the building, so, you know, I can't say how valuable it is, because I've never used it. You know, I don't think the intercom system is one that they can call between departments, but I think that's more for management. So if we're looking at, you know, 2.5 years of maintenance, now, of course, we're gonna have additional funds coming in over the next 2.5 years, but it's gonna be at the rate of $450. It's not gonna be at the rate of $650, because apparently we can't change that now because we missed our window. So I guess this board would have to figure out if that's the process that they want to follow and have potential liabilities of those funds. And I agree, I think we need a little bit more money on the budgeting end of it, as far as what we got in fund balances.
All set?
I think.
Perfect. Commissioner Durante.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we have to all realize that no matter what company you get, these HUD application is a HUD application. This is probably not going to be an application that's, oh, this is for Bay County and there's another one. HUD's got a boilerplated thing about this thick, you fill it out and away you go. So, yeah, to start out with, but by the time these guys get done, they're going to have 6 inches of paper.
Right.
So I'm just saying that, you know, these guys approached us, number one, and it's probably been a month, a good month. There was emails, everybody got them, where if you have any questions, please submit them. Well, I submitted some questions to MHT, got them answered, that was good. Anybody else had the chance. So now all of a sudden, here we are, we're at the 11th hour, and it's a go or no-go project, and now we got all these voices and concerns and everything else. Now, to me, these questions should have been answered a month or so ago. I understand, everybody's busy, you've got things going on and everything else, but if it was that much of an issue, you should have addressed them a month ago, as I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Coonan.
I don't know if anybody here has seen the budget. Has anybody seen Center Ridge Arms budget? So if they haven't seen the budget, how can we make a decision based on that? Not seeing the budget, not seeing, we just pulled out the fund balance of $1.6 million today, and capital and operating. Nobody's seen that before. I think we should do an evaluation, a cost analysis over 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, and see exactly how we compare with that present system to tax credits.
Yeah, just say, I don't see how the two are related, but I think the point is, Commissioner Coonan, basically Center Ridge Arms has had little investment, I think, other than a boiler, since it opened in 1980. And it's really, we have, I think, currently about 11 people on the list, and I think other developers have said you should have a 2 or 3 year waiting list to get into Center Ridge Arms. But it's been neglected for so long, we need to get caught up. The benefit of this type of project would be it would produce about $2.5 million of unrestricted funds to the county. And we have other needs besides Center Ridge Arms, that I included in the budget that you didn't get a chance to vote on. But our infrastructure is suffering. Even $1,000 worth of tools for our maintenance department. Don't have the money for it. We have a whole lot of needs in the other areas of county government, and this project would generate significant revenue. Now, we've talked to Bill Phillips, and he seemed very happy. And, the constraints of the Open Meetings Act prevent us from having more than 3 commissioners at a time. You can't have a quorum to discuss any business. It was informational sessions, and I guess in retrospect, we should have had every commissioner have the chance to sit down with the developers. They've come to Bay County 5 times with all of their about 4 to 5 individuals on each visit, except the 2 of the board when just Brian and Peter came. But I will tell you, based on my familiarity with MISTA and MHT, I think Commissioner Durancheck mentioned that they do have a stellar reputation. Generally, what I know from my 24 years in Lansing is when MHT makes a proposal, they generally are very, very, very a good chance it's going to be approved because they're a tested commodity. They've been in business since 1990. They've done, I think, a total of about 30,000 housing units. They own, the owner of MHT is the largest housing owner in Bay County, for example. So many of your projects around here were handled by MHT, and they're good projects.
If I could give some input to answer one question, the question as to where the audited fund balance would go on this deal, it's not included within the MOU because that money does not get transferred to MHT. We would have to reach an agreement with HUD as to how those funds were spent, basically the same public purpose test that we use for the proceeds of the building. So that money would stay with Bay County, but Bay County would have to make a determination as to how they wanted to spend it. Tell HUD, these are the things that we want to spend that money for instance, the septic code. Once it's approved by HUD, then you can use the money for those purposes, so that those are funds that would stay with Bay County.
Anyone else?
And Zach Burnett did indicate that the reason, or the individual who informed him that the fire system would need to be replaced relatively quickly is the individual who has been servicing the system.
We all set? Madam Clerk, let's take a roll on this, please.
Start today with Commissioner Coonan.
No.
Ryder.
Yes.
Lutz.
Yes.
Durancheck.
Yes.
Krieger.
No.
Big Ick.
Yes.
And Herrick.
Yes.
5 yeas, 2 nays.
Thank you. Commissioner Lutz.
Just one
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
caveat, I mean, if we could still get the information on the budget that I asked about, from the commissioner. Next, short,
By next week.
okay. Okay, next, I bring resolution 2018-2, which is the 2018 medical marijuana oversight grant for the sheriff. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2018-3, which is the MMRMA REP grant for a camera system at the juvenile home. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2018-4, which is the MMRMA REP grant intercom system at the juvenile home.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2018-5, which is the MMRMA REP grant, the fire rings for the Pink County Park from Administrative Services and Recreation Facilities. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2018-6, which is the MMRMA REP grant. How fast can you say that so many times? Independent security audit from IT. I move that resolution.
Support.
I have a question on, is that a 50%? It doesn't say it in the resolution. The other ones say 50%. Is that also?
The maximum is 50%
Okay.
of our cost. Whether they actually would award 50% is at their discretion.
Okay,
Yep.
I understand. Thank you.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2018-7, the amendment to addendum G of vendor agreement for the A&D Home Health Care Incorporated from the Department of Aging. Move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2018-8, the GIS data sharing agreements from GIS Environmental Affairs and Community Development. I move that.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2018-9, payables, general, bayonet, and Center Ridge Arms. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is resolution 2018-10, which is the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund, the local application process from Administrative Services. I move that resolution.
You want to support it first?
We have Mr. Marks from here, and he's on the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund, and
Support it first.
Support, oh, I support, sorry. I support it.
Okay. Now go ahead.
Now can I have discussion?
Commissioner Begic, go ahead.
So I wonder if Keith wants to explain why they want to keep it in-house. Seems like a good thing to do. but It's more work for them, probably.
Keith Markstrom, President of Bay Veterans Foundation, also a member of Soldier Sailors Relief Commission. This is a Michigan Trust Fund. We really have nothing to do with that through Soldier Sailors Relief. But in conversation with several of the commissioners or members of the committee of the Michigan Trust Fund, I think they want to retain it in Bay County. My understanding, having read a memo from the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency this past week, they're looking at cutting costs. You know, they closed their Michigan Trust Fund office here a couple years ago, was it?
Yes.
much to our consternation. In fact, we had intervention through Senator Green and brought the head of the MVAA here for an open meeting as to why they were doing that and how they were going to supplement that here. And it's pretty cut and dried with the state. They pulled the, Karen Miller retired at the time. They didn't replace her. We don't know how much was expended through the Michigan State allocation, the state allocation. There were some conversations that we had with some of the personnel within that department, some disagreements because we're serving a common population of veterans here for Bay County. And they contend that we couldn't intermingle records and so on and so forth. But when you're trying to deal with the same person, and our funds will cover certain things and state funds will cover certain things, you've got to have some communication. But it was a matter of record keeping. Anyway, rather than get into the match that we had, suffice it to say, the state did a 19-county pilot program on the expenditure of Michigan Trust funds. We were excluded on that. I don't know where that's at in process. My response back to the memo that was received was how much money has the state expended on behalf of Bay County veterans this past year, how many have been served, how many have been denied. And those were just off the top of my head reactions. Where does this fall into Soldier Sailors Relief? Again, we're serving the same population. And I believe that the criteria is pretty much the same. I think overall, this speaks to the continued fragmentation of services to veterans at the federal level, state level, and even here locally. And I've been working on a proposal, and I've mentioned certain things to several of you. I think gives us an opportunity to maintain everything locally here. And as soon as Debbie and Kim Presnitz and I are going to meet next week to figure out what's the fund balance with regard to Soldier Sailors Relief, some recommendations on how those funds could be better used. And so I can't speak to the trust fund. All I know is that the fellows want to keep it in-house because there's better control over it. My understanding is the state is not going to pay anything, however. So that's the dilemma, but we don't know how much they paid in the past. One of the things that, since I've been on Soldier Sailors, I just was sworn in the other day for a second three-year term. There's been vast improvement with services to our veterans in these areas. A lot of credit goes to Debbie and the work that she's put forth. We've got a new commission with the Soldier Sailors by statute that goes back to 1899. This board in 2007 agreed to fund it with the gypsy moth millage that was going off. So there's been no new taxes to the county, but it's been used, and that's what we're trying to figure out. What's the fund balance? How can we better use it? We have some thoughts and ideas, and I guess I'll probably pose more questions to you than what I can answer. So, Michigan Trust Fund, Soldier Sailors, totally separate.
I just wanted to mention, you know, in addition to what Keith said, you know, providing this service is something that we can do to help our local veterans here. The state, you know, in their wisdom decided to pull out, and there was a void that was left, you know, when they did so. And our service person down there now, Crystal Latimer, is helping out probably in areas that, you know, she may or may not, she doesn't have to do. She's just doing it because they're in need. And you know, my feeling is, and if, you know, if administration and the board concurs that, you know, if she can help a veteran by helping them fill out an application And the Soldiers Relief Board concurs, and our local Michigan Veterans Trust Fund Board concurs, and possibly give her some sort of a compensation for doing so, like we do with some of the other people that, that receive a per diem, or, then maybe we can look at that. I just hate to think that someone is going, unserved because they can't fill out an application, and they're not going to sit at a computer and do it, so.
I think it's a great idea to retain it on local level. When we get out in the region, you get kind of lost in the shuffle. And, and I always tell people, and we all know this, that when you're in Bay County or Bay City, that there's only 2 degrees of separation. And these are people we know. So if they have to go out to another county or somewhere else, they don't know those people, and they don't know each other. But here, when you talk to somebody, you find out that you're related to them, that you know somebody that's related to them. Bay County is it's kind of unique, how close people are. And like I said, if you live here long enough, almost somebody who knows somebody who you talk to. It's just unique in that way. And I think this is part of that we help retain that quality of life, and to help, like they said, to help these people, we can do more for them here than they can get on a more of a regional level. Commissioner Krieger.
Yeah, Mark, just a quick question. So with all these changes that are coming about and pulling away from Bay County, is it the legislators that have control over it, or is it the bureaucrats that are watching the numbers that are making the decision?
That's a good question. I have talked to Representative Brian Elder, who serves on Military Affairs Committee for the state, and I was just making him more aware of the soldier sailors than Michigan Trust, but I think it's bureaucracy. When you look at some of the changes that have occurred in the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency over the past few years with the nursing home over in Grand Rapids, the turnover there, and I think that they're finally settling in and doing a much better job than what they had. I mean, there were criminal charges that were being brought up because of lack of oversight. And so I think it's a bureaucratic thing.
So it's kind of hard to figure out whose feet we should be holding to the fire then.
Well, yes, but I think that if we can take a look, as we've talked about creating a true Bay County Department of Veterans Affairs, which then the soldier sailors, and according to the resolution that was passed here, I think it was in 2011, soldier sailors could be brought under that. Michigan Trust could be brought under that. Our Bay Veterans Council, which meets here monthly, which is a compilation of all the veteran service organizations. It's not a county agency organization. There's no direct tie, but they could be brought in as a liaison. Our own Bay Veterans Foundation, which we're trying to work on an activity center, could be brought in. We could serve as a not-for-profit partner in receiving certain funds. So I think that we've got to be careful in axing the state out of this, because we could go to the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency and perhaps seek some grants. I think that once we get a chance to read some of the research that we're doing, we could serve as a model pilot program for other communities of this size across the state and across the country. But we need to get all of the players together and sit down and what is it that we want? What kind of a model is it that we've got some real solid ideas. And our research shows that there's nobody doing an activity center for veterans in the state. There's some makerspace programs that are starting to fall by the wayside because they were profit driven. They had a lot of subsidy by Ford Motor Company and GM, so on and so forth. I'm getting a little bit of field, but so in the private sector, there were some things going, but nothing to occupy veterans' time in a productive manner. We have these guys and gals that come in, and we assist them by a food card or a gas card or repair the roof or give a furnace, but that doesn't help them become productive. We go back to the same attitude, lifestyle. But if we can create this place where they can come and build a birdhouse and interact with each other and form a little work group to take care of Battery Park or get a house and rehab it, then we've got something that we can really produce. So that's where we're coming from. I don't think we want to axe the state on this, because we never know what the changes are going to be there and if there would be funding to go to them for a model program.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Deb.
I just want to mention too that we did actually write a grant application last year. Unfortunately, the funding, there was an issue with the funding, but we had attempted to get funds from the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund, Veterans Affairs Agency, for the lift vehicle. And Keith is right, there are funds and there are grants available. We just have to strike while the iron's hot and try and, But also, I just, the Soldiers Relief Commission and the fact that we have more of a presence now here, they're really making some great strides in making sure that the money that is being spent is spent appropriately. And we're buying many less gift cards to supplement veterans than we have in the past, and it just shows that there's some accountability for what's being spent, and that they're evaluating it appropriately and helping really where there's a need, make sure the need is there. So
Thank you. Oh, Commissioner Creed.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just one last thing. So Mark, Terry Brzezinski, or Keith, I'm sorry. Rick's been working real hard and has made real progress with the land bank. This is finding homes that have a potential of being restored. And you talk about a veteran that goes back to old habits because we have no way of helping him develop new ones. I'm wondering, maybe as time goes on and all of this organization comes together, that maybe there could be some type of a marriage between your organization and Rick and the land bank in helping with revitalizing a home that maybe a veteran could purchase, and it'd be a win-win for everybody here.
Yeah, that's part of our dream, our goal. Number one is we need to become the most welcoming community for veterans in the state, period. And broadcast the successes that we have had and are going to have. But we need to have the plan, and that's what we're working on. So, that's our hope, is to get these folks productive. According to the MVAA, Bay County, according to the census in 2016, I think, the most recent anyway, there's 9,000 veterans in Bay County. That's the highest per capita of any county in the state. But the funding goes to, obviously, Oakland and Kent and Wayne because they got greater numbers. We also just are scratching the surface, but we think there's about 600 women veterans in the Bay Area. And in fact, on February 10th at the State Theater, Bay Veterans Foundation is co-hosting with the state and Tri-City Brewery an event called Red, White, and Brew Review with local young female talent, music songwriters, and we're recognizing women veterans from the area. So we're trying to bring focus to that larger collective group as opposed to the individuals. Our soldier sailors help individuals. And I think some of our figures were, again, we need to sit and meet to talk about this, but we have a bigger bang by helping that larger community and hopefully bring some of those folks that really are desperate, or they think they're desperate. It's like the food cards. That's a money management thing. It's not that these folks don't have anything, but it's choices. And somebody needs to help them make better choices. But you can't do it by just giving them a gas card and food card and say, come back in 4 months. That just doesn't do anything. So, but to your point, Ernie, I think that you're right. There's a lot of collaboration that we can do. In fact, I think I've got about 11 agencies in the area that have signed on a letter of support for our activity center and are willing to do certain things as part of their agency mission. So we just need to keep working at that.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, next I bring, it's a long process here, bring resolution 2018-11, or Dude Solutions Incorporated for Buildings and Grounds. I move that resolution.
Support.
Discussion. Commissioner Coonan.
That $70,000, that must include the $50,000 assessment fee. Okay. I still don't know why we can't do that in-house, number one. But it says yearly costs related to the project will be put into the 2019 budget. What is that going to be?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Yearly costs related to the project will be put into the yearly budget starting in 2019.
We actually have this project budgeted
How much
in
is
the
it?
2018 budget, the $70,000.
How much is it going to be in 2019?
It'll just be the software cost, that's $74.50, and then it'll be any sort of, if we have a data package that we're gonna have our guys carry cell phones, if we decide to continue that into the second year in 2019, there'd be a data package, which is about $600 per month.
Okay, and then the $8,000 that we're currently paying for Munis, is that going to go away?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so that'll be a wash.
Yes.
We're either supporting the whole 70,000 or nothing, right?
Yes, and I would like to explain why. It has been in my research with this company and doing reference checks and things of that nature, that the facility condition assessment is going to give us a lot of valuable tools, a 30-year capital forecast. It's going to load all of our units into all of these buildings into the system. It's going to build the system. But it also has been made very clear by the people I've talked to that if you don't do the FCA, they haven't been as successful. If you're not getting the information into the system that you need, because we are not engineers, we have professionals in the field coming in to put this, to do the assessment and load it into the system, that you're not getting the data back out it that we're looking for. So if we don't have the ability and we're not able to get it into the system, and I don't believe that we will have the time or the ability to get it into the system as a professional company would, we're not going to get the data out that we're looking for. We're looking for information that's going to tell us year to year how much we may expect in a capital improvement, how many units we may need to replace. We're looking for all of this preventative maintenance to be preloaded, do the research for what we're doing now, what we should be doing in the future, all preloaded into the system. And so it is my feeling that if we don't do the facility condition assessment, we will not be successful with this software. And if we're not going to be successful with the software, then why would we do it?
Do we have the information stored somewhere that over the past number of years that on capital projects that we have done that we know what we've done so far, or the last 5 years, or whatever we've done the last 5 years, we don't have no idea what it is?
In the finance area, we would have invoices, but they would not necessarily be tracked to an individual capital project. We would actually have to go through every individual invoice. When they went on the Munis system, they started scanning everything behind the invoice that we paid. So that information is there, but it's very time consuming to get out.
If you use Munis, it would be there.
Yes.
I guess the next question I have is why haven't we used Munis? We
We
pay
have-
$8,000 a year and we don't use it. From my understanding, we don't use it, correct?
Correct. We do not use it because it doesn't work for us. We never were able to get the information in. It is not a system that is useful for us. And we won't be using what we have in the future because it doesn't give us any information that we need.
Commissioner Krieger.
Yep, so the $600 monthly charge to be able to have an iPhone, does that cover all the phones that we would have, or is it?
All the phones in my department.
Okay, so it's a blanket.
Right, and here's the thing about that is I want to give our guys every tool to be successful when we're starting this project. They currently don't use any sort of system. I want them to have this at their fingertips so they know when they walk into a job, they can access all the history on let's say they're working on a boiler. They have all the history, they have all the information, they might have part numbers, all that stuff is going to be loaded into the system. Now, if we get through 2018 and we determine that all of our guys, or maybe even part of our guys, could operate on a Wi-Fi only device, we definitely are going to be looking into that. So I'm not going to say that this data package is going to go on forever, but I definitely want to give our guys every single tool to be successful while we're learning this software.
So how many iPhones, we'll call it that way, do you foresee you would need to be able to, follow this program? How many?
12.
And is there a possibility that maybe an iPad might be more beneficial than them trying to put information in on a small screen on a phone?
If we would go to a Wi-Fi only device, then yes, it probably would be an iPad. If we think that they can carry it around without breaking it, the nice thing about an iPhone is it's easy to throw in your pocket and take with you.
If my technicians can carry them without busting them up, you guys should be able to handle it.
You think.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
John Morris, could you, I just wanted to, you studied this system too, and you're the one who does, you're the maintenance man. So what's your I know your feeling is pretty good on this package, but do you see it as a benefit to the maintenance department?
Well, let's go back a number of years ago when we first received Munis and we were trying to implement all the data. It was so troublesome to enter it, and we really didn't have any training with the software. We had in-house, we had some personnel from IT, but it wasn't it didn't get off the ground. It didn't. The maintenance, the work orders were, and since they upgraded the Munis to 10, I think it's 10, they didn't upgrade our package of Munis. So we're sitting over here, with the outdated stuff, and I can probably say there's about 2 people in the county that actually will submit a work order, and now I've got to try to figure out how to receive it on my end, because I have no training with 10, and to try to get that, and then
And you see
get
that,
to the appropriate person.
You see this system as a plus for the county?
Right, and me and Blake, we started gathering data years ago to put into Munis, and it never really got off the ground.
No, but do you see this system, this dude solution as a plus?
Oh, definitely. We've got some, it's an easy-to-use app. Munis has that too, but there's some back end that we can use with Dude Solution that doesn't apply with Munis, doesn't have it. Accessibility, the reporting, graphs in the system, it can give us grafting. The preventative maintenance side of it, for each piece of equipment built into the system. Munis doesn't have that for us. Yeah, I do see it would be a big benefit to our department.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? Commissioner Coonan.
Yeah, who's going to train these folks?
There is a training portion as part of the contract, so we will be trained by the Dude Solutions team, and then John and I will follow up with any additional training that's needed. It's 24/7 support, so if we don't have a question answered during the training sessions, then we would be able to call and ask.
Yeah, it sounds like they weren't trained in Unix, if everybody else uses it. Is IT going to understand this?
Oh, they definitely will be able to. It's crazy simple to use, but it produces this really dynamic information. It's a really nice system. Now, I know we keep talking about Munis. We did take a look at what Munis offers for the new fleet and facilities, and it doesn't offer the same things. It does not, it appears that it's still building and that it could potentially get to, in years to come, maybe potentially could be something that is a nice piece of software, but right now, the Munis fleet and facilities, even the new one that they're offering won't work for us.
Anyone else? Seeing no one. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, 6 and 1. Here, you got a no? Okay. Thank you. Okay, next. Commissioner Ryder.
That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Ryder, we see nothing on their personnel and human services.
You are correct, Mr. Chairman. There is
From the Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Durancheck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Resolution 2018-12, reports of the county executive. I'd like to move this forward.
Support.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next, we go to reports of county officials and departments. Mr. County Executive.
No, I don't know, I think I've spoken enough, but I do want to thank the board for their support of MHT, and I can pledge to each and every one of you that we'll work very closely together to get the information as this proceeds and to, on a regular basis, seek your input in terms of, how we move forward on this project. I'm totally confident that this is going to be a great thing for Bay County, for the residents, and ultimately for the general fund of the county as well.
Thank you. Any unfinished business? Any new business? Commissioner Lutz.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple items that was given to me before the meeting that I'd like to bring before the board.
Absolutely.
One is, would be, and I'd like to make the motion to receive the order of appointing Keith Markstrom to the Soldiers and Relief Commission for a term of 3 years.
Support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next, just as a, I guess, way of keeping our paperwork straight here in the county, Chris Zawarziak is going to a conference, and because this conference is over 300 air miles, he has to have approval by the board chair and I believe the Ways and Means chair. So I'd like to, present that and make the motion that we're approved to sign that, and there's no cost to the county. It's just paperwork, so I'd like to.
Discussion. Commissioner Krieger.
Where's it going?
He's going to, 911 goes to Washington. And it's a meeting in Washington DC for all 911 directors, which is paid for by the 911 Association and not through the county.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any miscellaneous? Under announcements, we have 2018 appointments. In March, we have the Bay Aranac Behavioral Health Authority, 3 3-year terms. In June, we have the Library Board, 1 5-year term. In October, Land Bank Authority, 1 at-large representative, a 3-year term. And the Department of Health and Human Services Board of Directors, 1 3-year term, which is the governor's appointment. In November, Building Authority, 2 6-year terms. And in December, the Department on Aging Advisory Committee, 4 2-year terms in districts 2, 4, 6, and an at-large appointment. Commissioner Durancheck.
I have an announcement also, February the 22nd, which is a Thursday, Ashe Bay County, Northern Bay County. We're going to have some different departments from Bay County at Pinconning Township, 7 p.m. A variety of different departments will be on hand, ask questions for people anywhere can come, but northern area to give them input and things to what's going on in Bay County. Thursday, February the 22nd, 7 p.m., Pinconning Township. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is there, oh, Ms. Russell.
Just want to remind everybody, we have our blood drive coming up, January 26th at the Alice and Jack Word Public Library from 9 a.m. till 2 p.m. So please join us.
Is there a need for closed session today, ma'am?
There is no need for closed session.
Motion to adjourn is always in order.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.